you're in a bind. You need some cash really, really quickly. So you decide you're going to sell your PS5. So you make a quick ad on Facebook Marketplace. And soon enough, you start to get a lot of messages. But then you get a really good message from somebody who's close and ready to buy. Their profile doesn't have a picture, and their profile seems like they just opened it, but the opportunity is just too good to pass up. So you decide to meet them. But when you go to meet them, instead of getting cold, hard cash, you just see the cold metal of a firearm pointing at you as they take your precious PS5 from your hands. What did you do? Were you a mark, or is this a marketplace? Let's talk about it. Welcome to the debut episode of the Socially Safe podcast, the TTPS podcast, where we share real stories, give real lessons, and hopefully we can make some real impact. I am your host, Jamila Bannister, and I am really excited to be joined by my co-hosts for this episode, Sergeant Marvin Walker and Corporal Javan George, both of whom are digital forensic examiners with the Cyber and Social Media Unit within the TTPS. Guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to get started.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for having us, man. We are here to be as servants of the public, man.
I appreciate it. You could be a little formal. You could call me Javon.
Okay. And could I call you Marvin?
Maybe.
Okay, well, that's just for me, right, guys? This is still very much Sergeant Walker and Corporal George. All right, so in this episode, we will be discussing the ever so present and unfortunately popular Facebook Marketplace robberies, because we keep seeing headlines happening over and over again that people are going to meet persons to buy or even sell items and then ending up victims of crime. So guys, we are seeing so many things happening in the news. You go to sell some items, you need some quick money, you decide to put your washing machine, your PS5, your computer out there for sale, your phone, and when you go, you get a stack of papers, not dollars, or you get some sort of screenshot thinking it's a transaction and it's not. So I want us to just to discuss how we can actually help people avoid that. But I know you guys always have very interesting cases coming across your desk, right? So have you seen anything lately? Because not every story will actually make it into the headlines.
Yeah.
And in fact, the ones that make it into the headlines, they seem very, how I describe them, is flat. All we see is the report. We don't see anything that happened behind that crime. And then people go on social media and they laugh at them and they say they're so stupid, they're so this, they're so that. And eventually the victim almost becomes victimized a second time.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about any particular case, Marvin.
Yes.
If there's any case that came across your desk of interest that, that you would like the public to know about.
Yeah, and you are quite right. A lot happens in the background.
Yeah.
Because the police have been advising persons that if they are making any Facebook Marketplace transactions, that they could go to a safe place and do so. One of the places is at the police station. Right. And there was a situation where a guy, he did just that. He made arrangements with the buyer. He was the seller in this situation, and he made arrangements with the buyer to meet at the police station, where he would show him a piece of jewelry, he make some assessment, and then they would go ahead with the transaction. Lo and behold, he would have done all these steps. He would have announced his arrival at the station, had a conversation with the officers there, and then proceeded to an area outside of the station compound, in the area of the station compound, to conduct the business. And as soon as he was doing the assessment with the buyer and handed over the item, and mind you, this is before he received any cash whatsoever.
Right.
There were no online transactions before or anything like that. And as soon as he handed over a piece of jewelry, Speedy Gonzalez, gone.
He just ran away?
Just ran away. And I mean, to officers, it's also embarrassing because it's happening in our home, And there's even an extreme case where someone went to purchase a cellular phone in a not so, what is known as a little crime hotspot area, and they were actually killed in that thing. It was,
wow. And that transaction started online?
Yes.
Online, just simple. Hey, I have a a new iPhone to sell, you know, and with that lure and that grab for getting something new and that deal, the person went into the area and unfortunately was killed based on that interaction with the criminals.
Wow, that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. But, well, it's unfortunate that happened, but I know not every case ends in a case like that, right? So I know, Javon, you were telling me about something similar before.
Yeah, just recently in the Bannister Street Police District, two buyers went on to Facebook Marketplace to buy a PS5. You open with a PS5, and we're talking about a PS5 real-life incident. So they met the seller at the corner of Park and Henry.
Yeah.
Right? And Port of Spain. And the transaction handed over. They paid cash to the seller, and they got a PS5 box. So on their way home in the taxi, they opened up the box and found a card case with some bottles of Rude Boy. Right?
Wow.
And
a rude awakening was what they got.
Exactly, right? So they made a report at the Bannister Street Police Station, and the officers there, good officers, they coordinated a sting operation. They communicated with the seller again, and they met at a place in Port of Spain, an area in Port of Spain, and where he was held. Right?
Okay.
Suspect was held, so those inquiries are continuing right now. So it's trying to identify the network now. So that's very good work by these officers there. So, and it's good that the buyers, the victims, they actually made a report. And sometimes these cases go unreported, or when you report it, it's not taken seriously by the police officers there. So kudos to the Bannister Street Police Station and the officers there.
Yeah, that was actually a very good work. And there's some things that you guys mentioned there that made me think. I realized that it's not just buyers in these situations that not just sellers, sorry, but they're also buyers. So you could actually go to sell something and end up in a situation that is unpleasant. Correct. Or you could be selling something and go there with the expectation that you will receive some sort of money, some sort of compensation. And then what you get is essentially what? A crate full of Rude Boy, a box of stones, an envelope full of pieces of paper, and not cash.
Yeah.
So I found it to be interesting that you mentioned that both types of, both buyers and sellers actually get engaged in that type of, is there anything, type of situation, is there any other unique feature of these types of crimes that you've seen in when they come across your desk? Yeah,
so it's a group of individuals who are very tech savvy, and they scour social media to gather information, what we call social engineering. They look for the weakest points in persons, the human factor in it. We tend to overshare information about ourselves online, and that's what they feed on, they target. And these, as I said, they're very tech savvy. They communicate via phone, or sometimes they have a female, right? A female voice, actually, right? Where they tell you that they're going to meet her to buy the item, right? And then after she calls, like minutes before the particular time, she's going to call and say, look, I'm going to send my I can't make it, but I'm sending the item with my father-in-law or brother, right? And when you meet at the place, location, and when you see two persons coming to your direction, at a particular description, one armed with a firearm. Yeah. And the incident, the robbery takes place, right?
Now, you mentioned sting operation. Now, when you say sting, I'm not a police officer, but I'm thinking there are multiple people involved in these types of crimes. So when you say sting, what do you mean, and what should people be looking out for?
It's a sting operation by the police officers.
The sting, okay.
Yeah, this was by the police officers, yeah.
All right, so the sting was by the police officers. I think I am mixing up two thoughts. So here's the thought I was actually trying to get across. Sometimes I understand that there are multiple people involved in these types of robberies.
Yeah.
What would you call it? What would you call that?
Joint enterprise, I call it.
Okay, a joint enterprise, right? A joint enterprise, or some sort of crime organization, a group type of activity. So have you seen this type of thing when it comes to, because you mentioned use of a woman, and then the woman would include an uncle, a brother, some sort of male relative. So have you seen a lot of that?
And that's in their way. Just like in a traditional robbery, it might have someone who is the lookout. There would be someone who is the getaway driver. And as Corporal George mentioned, they sometimes use different individuals, a female, to first soften that aspect in terms of that conversation. And in probably sometimes doing that background social engineering to the person, they would realize that this person might be a little softer if they speak with a female. And they may not want to show their face, obviously, because of certain profiles, criminal profile look, that profile look itself. So they use other persons to just soften the blow.
So I'm glad you said that, because my next question was going to be, do you think that the potential perpetrator, do you think they are looking for certain markers on somebody's profile before? Because not every victim is a seller. Some victims are buyers. So they are looking to entice you in now with some sort of offer. What are some of the things you think people may be putting on their profile that can actually attract the eyes of a potential robber?
And I don't know, I actually prepared some notes just for that.
Okay, well, tell me. We want to know.
Scammers are adept at manipulating emotions, cognitive biases, and also social behaviors of persons.
Right.
And if I am to do some research on you and see in terms of your purchasing, you might be a person who buys and sells item. You're looking for that quick deal. So if they know you're looking for that quick deal, sometimes they may try before, and they ain't get through. And they come and use a different method and know that you are going to grab onto this. So that's doing that background and keep mentioning
a sense of urgency and fear. Right? They prey on that. Right? Come and get the item now or else. Or sell it to somebody else. We had another experience as well too, where a buyer arranged with a seller to meet at a police station. So the buyer was there at the police station, but the seller called the buyer and said what's going on. I can't really come by the station now. I have other deliveries to make, but meet me by a particular place where there's no, they want to pressure you to meet by a place where there's no witnesses, no pedestrian traffic, there's no CCTV. And with that now the buyer feel a sense of fear of losing the item and be urgency to get it. They leave the safe space, police station, to go into an unsafe space and was robbed.
And that is pure manipulation. They know initially that they would grab onto that trusting thing. I'm meeting at the station, boy, that's legit. But it's also legit for someone to call and say, hey, you're running a little late, or hey, I can't make that, come and meet me. That's something normal as well. So they prey on that, the normal social norms, things that's happen in terms of when you make a bank transaction. It's commonplace someone just send you a screenshot of that reply when the transaction is made. But the money hasn't hit the account as yet. But because they may have trusted it 10 times before that online transaction, and they themselves may have done transactions and persons trusted them. So when they see somebody do it to them, they trust it as well. But that time, no money in the account.
And as we were preparing for our discussion today, there was something that I thought about, having bought and sold things before. Even as something as simple as, let's say you take a taxi or you go somewhere and you pay and they give you the change. You may just stick it in your pocket. And you would take for granted that this person is actually giving you what they're supposed to give you. And I don't know if anybody else feels awkward about this. Maybe you guys could tell me in the comments. But sometimes you don't want the other person to feel as though you don't trust them.
Correct.
So you may not check the thing in front of them. You may wait until you get home to check the item. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying.
I understand, and that is standard sometimes brought up. See, your mother tell that would be bad manners to somebody give you a gift. You go in and check to see if it's good or bad. But then there are other times when, that is cat in bag.
Yes, that's what it is.
Sometimes the deals are too good to be true, and sometimes you have to trust instincts.
Yes.
If you do research online, an iPhone, how much are iPhone 16 now? right? Probably
the cost.
Too much.
Too much, right? And they're selling it for like, let's say $2,000. It's like, wow, I'm getting a deal there.
You want that.
So persons, members of the public have to be reminded that it's not always a deal.
Yeah.
Right? It's a scam. It's likely to be a scam.
Yes.
Right? So trust your instincts and try not to go down the rabbit hole, so to speak.
Yes.
Right?
And I'm glad you mentioned that because we actually took some time to ask members of the public what they thought about using Facebook marketplaces for selling and buying of items. So we took to the streets in this segment called Streetwise. This is what some people had to say about buying and selling on Facebook Marketplace.
Yes, I have done it before. I sold a phone already, but we would have sent it via TT Post because of safety issues, so the person would have made their payments via online and I would have sent out their package, just for some transparency, yeah. What do I think is a safe space to sell secondhand stuff? I don't think there's a safe space because a lot of times people sell you something, they advertise one thing, and when it comes to you, it's something totally different.
Yes, I would use Facebook Marketplace or Pin.tt to sell items because it's convenient. It's a way to connect with persons from around Trinidad, and yeah, it works because I have sold stuff on social media before. I think the safest way to sell secondhand items, firstly, maybe like word of mouth or like maybe a garage sale. But other than that, I think you could use online platforms. It's just you have to take certain precautions and understand the best way to go about it. So like going into public spaces in front of a police station or like having someone with you, even though that could still bring risk. But it is risky for both the buyer or the seller, but you just have to take certain precautions.
I would never use Facebook Marketplace to make quick cash because right now the current state of it is very unsafe, and I do not want to compromise my personal safety as well as the safety of those around me. I believe this best way to buy and sell secondhand items is to potentially get people within the police service to monitor certain places for trade, like trade centers, if you will. And these trade centers would allow people to safely go about trading without the risk of being robbed or murdered.
Yes, I would use Facebook Marketplace. I have used it in the past. I sold an item, and when I did sell the item, I met at a police station with the individual. So it assured me that I was safe when the transaction was happening. I think they should take more precautions when they're using social media to sell items. One thing that they could do is meet in public places, and even in public places where there are a lot of people back and forth, not in any way secluded. Another way is in police stations. It shows some kind of security when they are making the transaction. Other than that, it's something good to screen the people as well before you actually go and make a sale. So probably check their profile, see if they had sold other things in the past, look for comments, and doing that you'll actually feel more secure going to sell the item.
I've used it before to sell one or two items, like you want to thrift stuff. So I've used the online Facebook platform for selling stuff online. Well, I use Facebook because they do advertise marketplaces. That platform is a better place to sell stuff. And the items that I was selling, the persons I wanted to sell to use that platform more than the other social media platforms.
Yes, I would use Facebook Marketplace to sell certain items within a certain price range. In doing so, I would actually look to meet with the person close to, or if not inside the police station, let's say if I'm meeting someone who sounds like a very big meal, I'd actually meet with that person in the police station. I tend to avoid public places like the mall and so on, solely for the fact that you might assume you'd have safety in numbers in those places, but anything could happen so quickly in such spaces. So I tend to situate myself close to the police station, or at least inside of, if I'm using that platform, meaning Facebook Marketplace, to sell any item.
Yes, I would. The reason being is because Facebook has many people that uses it every single day, and it has a lot of exposure. So instead of me going door to door or trying to sell from person to person, it could always be advertised via Facebook, and you'll have a bigger reach instead of trying to do it by yourself. So it will be much easier to sit down for 20 minutes and just create a page and create something that will be able to make an extra income. To me, one of the safest ways in selling second-hand items in Trinidad and Tobago, there are several different sites in which it depends on what it is you want to sell. So for vehicles, there are other vehicles that there are places that sell over vehicles for you. But if it's like for phones and stuff like that, then there have to be a meeting place where it is you can be safe, so that you know that nobody will try and steal it from you.
So that was our Streetwise segment. So based on what people have said, we see the opinions of the public.
Yeah.
I'm seeing over and over again, people still saying yes to using Facebook Marketplace. So it's obvious that all the experiences aren't bad, but of course the headlines we see, people getting robbed, right? So based on what some of our street correspondents had to say, the people, members of the public, and your own advice, how would you advise people going ahead if they are to use Facebook Marketplace? Like, what are some of the strategies they need to put in place in order for them to ensure that they are a hard target and they don't put themselves in a position to be victims of crime?
Yes. A key thing I heard from one of the responders was that aspect of having that sort of trade zone.
Yeah.
And it brings back to memory the St. Joseph Police Youth Club under the stewardship of Miss Goddard had created that for around, I think it was around Christmas time, where they allowed persons to come on a particular compound and do their transactions there, and that is definitely. So whereas we give the general advice that the police station or the compound is a safe place to do that thing, you need to have probably a little more formal arrangement in that. I heard our other responders spoke to something where of a third-party involvement, and it brings to mind the word of escrow. That escrow services, that third-party person that would actually have a little more resources to put the transaction in place for you safely. It's at a cost, yes, but you are safe at the end of the day. So that is definitely a good idea in utilizing third-party services to act as that sort of escrow service. And that is something that happens even in the digital space, where we sometimes do investigations with cryptocurrencies as well, where it's very easy for you to lose that fund because the person is so anonymous, you have absolutely no idea who you may have transacted. At least on the Facebook Marketplace, you have a little semblance, but in other spaces, the anonymization is even more.
Yeah.
So that escrow service coming in there brings some added safety.
I would also add, I always end my awareness lectures to the members of the public: trust but verify.
Right.
Do your due diligence. Do your research. There are, I'm always on the internet, and there are a few marketplaces, but a few businesses or scammers online that they utilize AI to drive up your content or likes on your page. So when you go onto a page, want to buy this particular item, you think it's legit.
Yeah.
But however, it may be just when you do checks on the profile, it's just empty profiles with just one profile picture, not much, created 2025, 2026. Doesn't make sense. So trust those instincts. Trust but verify. Also ask from the seller. You can ask for photographs of the item, like recent photographs of the item. Also, any interviews there you all had, persons talk about the way you're meeting at a police station. Right? The police stations are a public space where the public has access to. I don't know if something can be worked out with the TTPS, where You can have those trade zones there, let the officers know, are aware of that transactions going to take place here. And also, working with large sums of cash, people, it's not always the best way to do business.
Yeah.
Right? Cash is untraceable. But you would like to use the online payments as well too. But also online payments, there's a risk.
Yeah.
But the risk is not knowing or having not knowing when the transaction will be completed.
Yeah.
So from probably FCB account or RBC account might take about 2 days, whatever.
days, yeah.
RBC to RBC will take some hours.
But I mean, in our discussions before, one of the things you could do is just wait. I mean, you can wait 2 days to avoid being robbed.
Verify.
You know, you might think you need it now, but an emergency suddenly is not an emergency when you get robbed.
Yeah.
So you can, in fact, wait. And it's interesting that you mentioned about the police stations, and a lot of people actually mentioned that as well. And you highlighted the trade zone that Ms. Goddard put in place in the St. Joseph Police District. And I like that a lot because I know there was some back and forth as to whether or not you should actually be transacting anything on the compound of a police station. You might think it's safe, naturally in your mind, and it should be, right? But as you mentioned in the case before, if you are on the edge of a police station, you're right by the gate, and you have a small item like a chain or a ring, or somebody could have snatched it from you and they're gone, right? Remember the TTPS, we don't provide personal security to people.
Exactly.
Right? That's not what we do. But we do try to provide a safe space where you feel you could transact. So when it comes to like using the TTPS police station compounds, like what is your advice around that? And what should people really keep in mind still?
The TTPS has a role, and in our vision statement, it speaks about making every place in Trinidad safe.
Yes.
You know, and that is our social constitutional social contract with the members of the public.
Right.
Maybe we have to do some inward reflection and probably putting some things in place, you know.
Perhaps.
Look at there, and that is something open for discussion. But persons, at the end of the day, making yourself that hard target, verifying who is the person you're speaking to. It's not always about that quick turnover, that quick deal that is coming your way. You have to put things in place. Mentioned earlier in terms of going in a public space where you know it probably has some CCTV coverage.
Correct.
That is not really a stopper of the scam that may eventually happen, but it still gives the police, or it gives that lead into if there has to be an investigation. At least there is that avenue.
And if persons are victims of robberies perpetrated by social media marketplaces, doing those screenshots of the communication, phone numbers is important. So that when you're going to make the report, you carry those things to the police officers. So that information, we assist the CSMU, Cyber Social Media Unit, we assist those divisions, branches, and sections, investigations that has a digital element.
Right.
So having those screenshots, those phone numbers, it's a treasure trove of information for us to do our analysis and provide that feedback to the station. So keep those things. And members of the public, just be reminded, that's very important to us, to keep those screenshots and keep those communications, the chats, and etc.
And I think I want to emphasize a point here too, in terms of keeping the information. A lot of people use things like disappearing messages on WhatsApp. So you might have a conversation with somebody, and then you go back the next day and the conversation has disappeared. It's like you never spoke to them.
Hey, that's
which for me is very creepy, I have to say. Right? I have to say it's very strange.
But in our investigations, assisting the CIDs, etc., when victims of robberies or scams, when the transaction happens, the seller takes down their pages. Right? So that's why it's important to take those screenshots early o'clock. Right? So if you all are communicating, I know that when this message goes out, communicating with some buyer or seller, save those screenshots first. Because as soon as they get the money or get the item, they delete the page.
Those disappearing, those are red flags.
In
our normal day-to-day lives, sometime in relationships and otherwise and stuff like that, these little things, you know, you would have that mistrust. Why the messages disappear? If this is legit and so forth, why that time? Why the increased sense of urgency that things must happen now?
Yeah.
Yes.
And those are things that they utilize and manipulate the would-be victims and in getting their bad deeds done.
Yes. And there's one more thing I want to address before we place this episode under arrest and close it down, right? So one last thing somebody did mention in the Streetwise segment was the illusion of safety being in a crowded place.
Yeah.
I think I definitely want you all to address that, because I do think people have an illusion that if it's in a crowded place, a public place, that's not going to stop somebody. If somebody has ill intentions, they're still going to rob you.
Yeah. Just like right in where we discussing here, the Facebook marketplace is a crowded space digitally.
Yeah.
And with the inherent red flags and issues that would happen there in terms of anonymity and so forth, at the end of the day, you go into a public space to meet someone, you still don't know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
They may send a picture, it may actually be them approaching you or so forth, but they could have their how to put it, their associates somewhere lurking in the
mafia
background.
Crime syndicate.
You understand?
Around.
So that where it comes into that criminal joint enterprise there.
A message to the victims, right? Yeah, so being in a general public space like the mall, as someone said in the interview, you have eyewitnesses.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So persons can identify somebody. Right? You have mall security guards, etc. You have the CCTV in the malls. So that's a sense of security, but just be minded that those persons can come and give a statement.
Yes.
Indicate that what they saw, or give a sketch artist to come and do a sketch of the suspect.
All right, guys, well, I think this was a fruitful first episode.
Right.
And so, final thoughts before we close this one down?
Yeah, going back to the TTPS vision statement in terms of making every place a safe space, it is the intention, it is our mandate as police officers to also make that digital space safe. And with the use of this podcast, we also do awareness seminars at various schools, public spaces, even private companies as well. We conduct these cyber awareness programs to bring persons up to speed about current trends and some of the methods that these scammers use. So, I mean, being safe, understanding where you are at.
Yeah.
The internet is an anonymous space. When you transcend that into the physical space, is the same thing. You have to be aware of that spatial awareness, what is around you, and don't buy into the urgency of now, deal. Yeah. Check, and I'll give Corporal George to give his closing and we just always say.
At the end, as I always end off, trust but verify.
Right. All right, guys. So, are you buying what this episode is selling? If you are and you loved it, go right now to YouTube and visit the TTPS channel and subscribe to this podcast. If you would like to listen on the go, download this episode via Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And remember, Trinidad and Tobago, don't just stay safe, stay socially safe.